What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter.
Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. Power lines that are just kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg.
I'm joined today with Seth. Is it Teagle is how you pronounce that?
Teagle, that's right.
Teagle. All right, great. How you doing today, Seth?
Doing very good. Thanks for having me on.
All right, awesome. So for those of you in the audience who have never seen a Chance Encounter before, the way it works is I interview commercial real estate investors, and then what I do is first I go through the 5 different motivations that I've found commercial investors have for wanting to get their next deal, and I say, which one's you? Then I go through the 6 different roles in a commercial real estate deal, just in case you in the audience don't really get it. Usually the investors that I'm interviewing, they do get it, so they say which one is their core competency and what they're most likely to contribute in their next deal. Then I go through the ideal property and all that kind of fun stuff. But first of all, I think it's very important for commercial real estate investors to be able to introduce themselves effectively. So I always give people a chance. So Seth, can you please introduce yourself for the audience?
Yeah, my name is Seth Teagle. I'm based out of Columbus, Ohio. I have a company called the Stream Group, and we buy commercial multifamily. We manage do property management, construction management, all the above. We're vertically integrated, and that's really the gist of who I am and what we're doing.
Awesome, awesome. So let's go to the motivation parts, and then I've got my prop here. I'll go beep, boop, boop, which is just for effects. That doesn't really do anything. But over here, if I go like this, and I go like this, and then I hit my magic button right here, then ta-da, we got why do you want part of an apartment complex? Once again, beginners often don't know what their role is going to be, but at least they know what their motivation is, and I've got them down to 5. The first one is some people are looking to preserve their purchasing power, particularly family offices, anyone who relies on their wealth and the cash flow from their wealth to make their ends meet. This is the biggest thing that they're going to be concerned about. They're concerned that inflation is going to mean the party is over. So it makes a lot of sense to have cash flowing assets. So that's reason number 1. Reason number 2 is the one that matches my own incentive for doing all of this, which is as a high earner in tech, I've got the option of saving that cash, dumping it into these assets, but then I'm paying the highest form of tax, which is income tax. So it made a lot more sense for me to pivot and then get directly onto the GP team. That way I'm getting compensated for my time and effort in the form of wealth. The next reason is the most common one, which is wanting to fast track your retirement. There are 2 things that are implied in this one. One of them is like if you're in your early 20s and you say, oh, I'm fast tracking my retirement. I'm like, yeah, no, you're not. Because like it's you got to have something to start with before it really counts as fast tracking your retirement. But the other one that's even bigger is it implies there's an end goal in mind. Maybe one day you will decide to rest on your laurels after you're an accredited investor. Maybe you'll move someplace where the cost of living is super duper cheap. But the idea is that you're not the type who's going to be hustling into your 90s, making everything go. But the people who will are the ones who want to buy their entire hometown. They just have to have the biggest yacht in the pier and all that kind of stuff. These guys are also great to have on your team, just because they won't quit. These are the legacy builders that they want to have go on for generations and generations. But that's also in contrast to the next group, which are people who they pick some part of society and they say, I really want to help these people. And then they're smart enough to realize that accumulating wealth is by far one of the best approaches you can have to make a real impact on society. I think Tim Bratz as well, and I like how he pointed out that you don't see a whole lot of hospitals with librarians' names over the door. It's you have to accumulate a lot of wealth if you're going to make that kind of huge impact, like building a hospital. So out of those 5 different motivations, Seth, what combination best describes your situation?
I think for me, it's part of fast tracking to retirement, and it's also part of preserving, wealth that I've created or have yet to create. So kind of those two things are probably those are the closest things to the why that I have when I got started.
Gotcha. And then as far as roles go, there are 6 of them here, and I'll go through them when my Dan Does Deal die. So the first one is the most important to go through is the repositioner, because a lot of the people you run into, they're repositioners, and that implies a couple things. One of them is that you're going to have to do underwriting if you are a repositioner. You are in charge of getting acquisitions, but the biggest thing in underwriting, just in case you haven't heard, that means doing the math, going through and finding out if the property makes sense. But a repositioner also has to know if there's some sort of upside that they can squeeze out of the property, okay? And the 2 main ways that people get upside are more efficient operations. In other words, they cut the costs. You can see the Benjamins going down the toilet there, just barely because there you go, the camera's adjusted. Okay, so unclogging toilets and all, and collecting rent, that's all part of operations. But there are other more subtle parts like bookkeeping, and in my case, it'd be helping with the marketing to make sure that your vacancy rate is very, very low, and then also automating any inventory for your maintenance. But right now, it's the hottest real estate market in history, so operations probably aren't going to be enough with most properties to end up getting that upside. So the other thing that people do is they get a team of contractors, they make it nicer so they can charge more rent, and then that means more money's coming in. That's what upside really is. But if you're like me and you're from the internet, you got a big fat problem, which is every single time there's an issue, I don't want to have to get my passport and hop on a plane. So I need boots on the ground. You need a local, somebody who can actually check in on the contractors, make sure they're not cutting corners, make sure that they're getting things done in a timely manner, and also making sure that the operators are doing their jobs. And that's what most people think of these 4 different roles when they think about owning an apartment complex. They think about these 4 people because they're more or less day to day. But when you're acquiring them, you're going to have to go to a financier, probably a bank. And part of some financiers are actually just capital raisers. To be on the GP team, you have to have something else going on legally. But the role of the financier is the repositioner says, hey, I found this property. It's got lots of upside available. How about you lend me tens of millions of dollars, because this property is going to cost tens of millions of dollars. And they'll say, okay, let's see, here's the property, here's the team. Okay, that's all cool, but who's your sponsor? And that's the one that in a lot of coaching programs you won't find out about. And if you want to get a loan, you have to have a sponsor or a KP, and that's a person who already owns a similar asset. So even if you are Elon Musk, if you want to buy a 350 unit apartment complex or whatever, somebody in the fold, if you want to get that loan, has to already own a similar asset, a 350 unit apartment complex or something around there. And then there are some other restrictions, like you have to provide liquidity. You also have to have a balance sheet of at least the amount of the loan. But those are the 6 different roles in a commercial deal. So Seth, what is your core competency or the role that you're most likely to take up in a co-GP situation?
So it depends on the size of the property, but I would say the KP sponsorship is 1, and then 2 is operations. So our team and within our company handles all of those roles. Not everybody may be like a W-2 employee, but what you're saying is exactly right, is that we have found out as we've grown we've had to bring in other people or partner with other groups to accomplish those things. But me personally, that's my main role is operations, overall operations, and then cover the debt. So whether that's me signing on the debt or me, putting up a bunch of my liquidity or whatnot, that's what I do.
Excellent. And so you were mentioning that it depends on the size of the property. So that brings me to the next question, which is what I call the buy box. So that's what geographic areas, what unit counts, and what classes are your ideal property, where it's much more difficult to say no to those deals than other kinds. What's the perfect deal for you, Seth?
So for right now, like where we got started, so we've got just in Central Ohio, we have 600 and a little over 600 doors. And that's kind of where I would say that we got started, was because it was local. So instead of spanning out and going over to like bunch of other states, we went local and then went really deep on what we're doing. And so for us, I think the smallest we'll do is like 50 units, and then the most that we've done is 180. So somewhere in that range is where we're comfortable. If we were to do something bigger, we've gone after a 305 unit property this year. We lost out in best and final, but that would be a pretty big one for us, which is then again, like you said, we would then as a company would be reaching out for bringing on somebody else that has a 300 plus unit deal or much larger than we are. So as a company, we've got over 2,000 doors. But here where I'm at locally, what I have a direct impact on daily is just over 600.
All right, that's really awesome. Okay, and for those of you in the audience who don't know me, I'm Dan Fredenberg. My background is in helping sponsors with their automation in their acquisition cycle. So that means helping to automate the underwriting, and then also more the marketing side these days is what I do more and more of with content like this. But Seth, we met through the Vincent brothers, who are also known as the TikTok lawyers. But what's the best way to get a hold of you? It was we basically caught up through Facebook. I'm usually more on LinkedIn than anything else, or do you have a website that's better?
Yeah, so I mean, you can find me under my name, Seth Teagle, on Facebook. LinkedIn is the same. I'm on that as well under my name. We have a website. It's www.thestreamgroups. It's plural. Groups is plural.com. And then you can email me directly at seth@thestreamgroups.com.
Okay, awesome. And one last thing, which is for you in the audience, which is if you look on the screen below my left hand here, you'll see this red button, and it makes me super duper sad. It's the one that says subscribe on it, and it only makes me sad because it's red. If you click on it, it turns gray, and I won't be sad anymore because it means that YouTube pays for these videos instead of me, which is much, much, much better. But please do that. It doesn't cost you anything. It's the only way that YouTube actually will pay for all of these things. And all it means is that my videos might show up on your list of suggestions. And that only affects you if you're not the type who just opens YouTube to search for how to switch a flat tire and that's it or whatever. But it does make a difference to me. You'd be doing me a huge favor. But Seth, this has been really great getting to know you. This has been great. Thanks a lot for coming out.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Awesome.